So just more generally, what did you think of the ending of this book? Did you think, is it what you expected? Did it catch you off guard? Did you think it had a good, like, satisfying ending, or did you not? Yeah, Maggie.
It caught me a little off guard because Achilles was still having that grudge of that, how do you say his friend's name?
Patroclus.
Okay, Patroclus, like, he was still like, he's dead, I can't stand it, even though the war's over, which you don't need to worry. And he's like he pretty much won the war, I guess, so like he should have some sort of victory, I guess, but then instead he's too worried about it. So it's like a really like heavy and it's like full of grief, I guess, and then it looks like it's a little more than just a friend relationship for sure, especially
because he's still dwelling on it here at the end. You think like the intensity of his grief shows that? I mean, to me, I totally get what you say. Like, when I read a war book or a book about an adventure, by the end of it, you expect some kind of celebration. You expect, like, Gryffindor wins the House Cup and everybody's happy, even if, you know, spoiler alert, his godfather died, you know, like, he's still like, you get that sense of closure at the end where everybody sort of ends up okay, even if bad things have happened to them. But in this case, we end still with his grief. We start with his rage and we end with his grief. It's like Achilles has no good times in this book, you know? Who else had some thoughts about the ending, about how it ended? Yeah.
I thought it was really satisfying.
Okay, what?
How Achilles kind of let go of his son, the Trojans mourn the death. Maybe because in that moment there was like a moment when he just kind of realized that they were also mourning.
Yes.
Their person, just like he was mourning.
Yeah.
And so, kind of seeing how that little character development and how he just kind of let go.
Good. So the character arc isn't super extreme here. It's not like we see him go from rage to pure happiness, but the lesson that he learns creates that kind of character arc, where he learns maybe that other people's rage and other people's grief is something that he can alleviate in some way, that he can, like, he doesn't just have to be thinking about himself the whole time. Jack?
I feel like it was really nice to kind of see, like, Priam kind of talks to Achilles about how, like, what happened and stuff, and like how he loves Hector. It's kind of really nice to see Achilles, like, actually be nice for once.
Yeah, to, like, actually communicate with somebody and feel, like Kat was saying, empathy, but also just to sort of almost be himself a little bit more. Like, we've seen him express himself that way with Patroclus and with Thetis, his mom and his best friend, right? But anytime he's out and talking to anybody else, he almost has this macho kind of front. But when he's talking to Priam, he, like, makes a real good effort to understand where Priam is coming from. I agree. It's nice to see him be nice, like, to be human. We see his godlike side throughout the whole book, but to see his human side is really important. Awesome.
Yeah, so I was just going to say the ending really helped to humanize a lot of the characters because, like you were saying, they're all kind of just like men of war, and it just shows them being angry and fighting and stuff, and it was really nice to, like, see their emotions a little bit.
Yes, and not just the anger part of it, right? Because that is an emotion that they're feeling throughout, but to actually see them, I don't know, to actually see them grieve in a way that seems more healthy a little bit, you know? I think one thing that always, that when I first read this surprised me was I thought it was going to be a war story. I thought it was going to be a story about, like, enter battle, and then, you know, a whole bunch of things happen. Maybe our rising action is like fighting. There's going to be some sort of climax here, big fight between all of the, you know, between our heroes. So I kind of expected that the climax of the stories would be Achilles versus Hector, you know, and then there might be a falling action where, actually, no, I kind of expected the big fight to be a kind of crisis point, but then I expected it to be like win the battle, like Greeks win. And then I would see sort of this falling action where maybe there's a kind of celebration, or maybe it's just a kind of coming to terms, which we do get with what's happened in the war. And then here at the end, a kind of they lived happily ever after type of story. That's sort of what I expected from a book that I knew about the Trojan War. Kind of what I expected to happen here was that the horse, you know that story of the horse where it's like this hollow horse and the Greeks all hide inside. It's Odysseus' idea. The Greeks all hide inside and they push it inside the Trojan walls and they're like, here's a gift from us to you, you know, and the Trojans are like, thank you so much, we'll take your gift. And then in the middle of the night, they burst out and slaughter all the Trojans. I thought that would be a part of the Iliad when I first read it, you know? I thought that was gonna be a story of a battle. But instead we have a story of a character. And it's a completely different story than what I was expecting. So instead of enter battle, we start with Achilles' rage. And then instead of this idea of fighting being the rising action, it was more like his growing emotional discontent. Let's call it. You know, it's kind of an emo story where he's just getting more and more angry, he's getting more and more upset by things. And then the climax, the first climax of it, the turning point, we might say, let's call it what it should be called, turning point, is Patroclus' death. Pat dies. The climax is still like the big fight, Hector v. Achilles. But then there's this whole character growth area that I feel like it stays kind of like up here, like the desecration of the body. And then finally, in the end, we've got this conclusion where it's Priam begs and Achilles finally listens. So instead of this being an action story, I think this is a drama. You know, the difference between the two. An action story is going to all center on these big fights. A drama is going to center on this character and his development. And once the character has undergone that slight arc, we can end the story. It almost doesn't really matter necessarily to this story that the Greeks end up winning it or how they end up winning it. The other thing that seems a little bit strange at the end of this is that this whole time we've been predicting that Achilles is going to die once Hector dies, right? But he doesn't. He doesn't yet. At some point he's going to die, and we know that because like the gods have decreed it, you know, but we don't actually get that end story. Why do you think that it does that? Kale and then to Ashton.
Maybe like what you said, it wasn't about the battle. And I think it was just kind of meant out to be kind of like a cookie, unsatisfying. I didn't take the listener or readers.
Yeah, you're waiting for the sequel, right?
Yeah.
There is kind of a sequel to this book. The sequel is the Odyssey. It's Odysseus' journey back home after the Trojan War. We don't get to hear about Achilles anymore, though. Ashton?
I think I thought Achilles would die too in the Trojan horse like scheme. But I think Achilles will probably die in the Odyssey.
You know, he's not in it though. He's never in it. He's already dead at that point. And it never really, there are other myths that tell us how Achilles dies, but Homer never really does. It is interesting. Here's part of what I think it is. I think that the book, if you were a really astute reader, the book has been setting us up slowly to see this as a human story and not as a political story, right? And it's why we get, we've talked about this a lot, it's why we get all that stuff about the Trojans, because the Trojans represent this more human side. The Greeks are sitting here plotting all this political stuff, like Agamemnon, you know, is trying to keep his political power. He's trying to keep himself as a leader of the Greeks. And because of that, he makes all of these terrible choices on a human level. Like he's a jerk, you know, in a lot of ways. He's selfish, he's prideful, etc. But he's just trying to maintain that political power. So we see the reason for it. And Achilles, same deal. It's like he's making all of these choices that are kind of all about his like glory in the end. It's almost like to give him like power as a historical figure or something, someone that we're going to remember in the future. And then on the other side here, we have these Trojans that are making decisions based on family relationships. And based on like their love for each other. And because of that, because we see them as more human, it makes us more sympathetic as readers, right? So that when Achilles makes that turn to the human, we're like, oh, that's what it was supposed to be all along. Like the Greeks should have seen this whole thing as a human story, a way to advance as humans. But instead, they've just been kind of cold and political and violent, you know? So if I were to say like there's like a message to the story at the end, it's like, let's, you know, even in situations that are heightened emotionally and that are, you know, have a lot of political consequences, who's going to own what land, let's pay attention to the human because that's what really matters in the end. is his little character arc rather than the Greek giant political arc. Does that make kind of a sense? A little bit? Okay, let's talk where we started. Let's go back to where we started. We started our conversation about the Iliad with a conversation about heroes. And we were saying, what is the quality of a good hero? So now after reading this book, I just want you to talk to the people next to you. You don't need to move or anything. Talk to the people next to you for 3 minutes. Let's do 2 minutes, a short one. Let's talk for 2 minutes about the qualities of a hero. What do you think are the main qualities that a hero needs to have? So this is just returning to a conversation we've already had.
Yeah, like you can see, like in this, that there are 2 times most heroes this book chapters that when they're talking from different people's points of view, they describe the same thing. You know, like when Vegas was talking, someone was describing her as being the sun, and he was like this magnificent god that just could do no wrong, and describing her from Priya's point of view, like this evil person, you know. So I think honestly it depends on the cultural view of the world, because some people will see one person as a hero and another person is not, and that could be totally my mom always says like hero is a villain in somebody's story. So you can like do your best to be here with everybody, but there's always going to be somebody love what you do.
Big character development of him, like I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so it's maybe someone like Luke, like he was at first
You guys ran out, except for Ashton. You ran out of things to say about heroes. Okay, actually, Ashton, will you continue on? I'm sorry to call you out, but will you continue along that line for me? Like, who's the hero in Star Wars? What do you mean?
So I was talking about how maybe a good quality of a hero is like humanization and her being human.
Okay.
I was talking about how, if you guys seen Star Wars, Luke at first was a brat, really whiny, impatient. We've seen that through like The Empire Strikes Back, in New Hope. But then when we see him in The Return of the Jedi, he's developed and he's grown, but he still like has this human moment where he like uses his anger. So.
Okay, good. So it's like the humanization there, but it is also a kind of humility, it seems like, about your weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly.
And your desire then to want to overcome those weaknesses, desire to grow. Because even from the very beginning, Luke at least has that, you know, so we can like recognize him as the hero in Star Wars. Has anyone not seen Star Wars? Oh no, we're leaving you out of the conversation. We'll switch here in a second. But like even from the very beginning, we know he wants to grow into something. So some kind of ambition seems to be important for a hero. What'd you say? Some kind of desire to do good or to be bigger than you are. Yeah.
The fear of letting people down.
Okay. Fear.
I think that's like a big part when like the book, like they're always fearing, like they're afraid about something. And generally, if they're big heroes, they fear about letting those around them down.
Okay, good. So it's also been a sense of responsibility, right? That you can't just think, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for other people. So the fear can't just be for yourself. If I go into this battle, I might die. You have to overcome that and think about how other people are going to act. Yeah, Maggie.
Similar to that, I think loyalty, we started with that in the beginning.
Yep.
But I think that just goes throughout the whole thing because, like, I don't know, Achilles kind of had it for himself, but like Hector was kind of like with his whole army, I guess. So, like he had, I don't know, he was just more loyal to me, I guess. Like he could have been like, oh, well, he did that, but he was more loyal to his army, and like Achilles was like, nope, it's mine, I'm gonna do this kind of thing. And it kind of shows how Hector, at the end, how people have so much grief for him because of like how much he's like been so like helpful to them, I guess.
Yeah, so it seems like, okay, wait, say that last part again.
like how much like the people have like were like so sad at the end when he died because they're like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it almost seems then like that part of the quality of a hero needs to be that people respect and love you.
yeah,
You know, it can't just be a hero. Like you can be a hero to yourself, I guess. But really, if we're to say like that person is a hero in our society, that depends on how we as a society think about that person. So they need the respect and love of the group. Yeah. Yeah, Matthew.
I just had a random thought
Yeah.
about how we don't know about how it's really died. But I was thinking like Hector, like everyone liked Hector. He was loyal to his country and stuff like that. That's where Achilles was kind of against that fight. So maybe people didn't respect him as much. So they didn't want to write how he died.
So it doesn't really matter totally how he died. What matters is his relationship to Hector. I think your argument then is like that Hector's the hero of the book, right? Yeah, okay, good. Any other qualities of a hero, Austin?
I think willingness to serve the people.
Okay, so it's not just, and I put this, it's like selfless-ish, right? Because, I don't know, I'm a cynic. I don't necessarily believe in selflessness, complete selflessness. Is that wrong? When I feel like, okay, let's say an action like giving money to somebody, like I give money to a homeless person or something. I feel like I don't always do that because I'm selfless. Like, I just want to give of myself, right? Like there's always some kind of benefit. Like I can feel good about myself because I did this thing. So I don't know that I fully believe in a selflessness, but what Austin says, it's a willingness, right? A willingness to serve others. So even if you do have a kind of selfish intent in there somewhere, you're at least saying, I'm going to do this for other people, even if it doesn't 100% suit my needs, you know, suit my benefit. That makes sense. Okay, are there any other qualities of heroes that we want to put up here? Yeah, Jack.
I mean, maybe not for every hero, but I feel like the heroes that I really enjoy in stories are ones that like give up power.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Like kind of like just I like stories where like the heroes like could be given a lot of power and do a lot of stuff, but they give it up just kind of because of what they do.
How does their giving up power make them into more of a hero in these stories?
I mean, because like if you're just always taking power, then you're never gonna want to let go of it. Like if you can let go of power, then
I see. It's a kind of character strength then. It might make you less strong, weaker, but it still shows a heroism of character. Okay, Keegan?
Kind of what he said, like when you give up power, it creates you like as more of a human, I guess, and people relate to you more. And then
Okay.
people will learn to respect you. And so they all kind of go hand in hand when you give up power.
So a hero then needs to be somewhat relatable, at least. Does relatable have an E in it? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you have to be relatable because then you can get this people respecting and loving you, right? And one of the ways that you can do that is insisting on your own humanity. I love that. Yeah, Haley.
I think the side humanization will give up power together. I feel like basically what she just said, them willing to give up power basically makes them vulnerable.
Ah, okay. Willing to be vulnerable then. All right, so we, at the beginning when we started talking about this too, we looked at that website that listed like heroes, and I don't know that all of the heroes on that website are represented here. I'm not sure. So one of the heroes I remember that we looked at in this class, it was like a girl talking about her mom. I think it was just one mom, but she was saying like, my mom is my hero because she's like living out, basically. Like she has a wife and she is a great mother, and so she is a hero. So what do you think of that? Should we expand our definition of a hero to include some of those like everyday heroes, or have we covered it? Keegan.
People who aren't like afraid to be like different than other people.
Okay, good.
Kind of like stand out a little bit.
Not afraid to stand out or to be different or unique, you know? Okay, cool. Any others we want to include here? How about when we call like soldiers heroes? Because I don't know that we've captured like a lot of the violence that goes along with heroics. like a lot of people that we call heroes, either superheroes or real life, generals like George Washington or those kind of heroes. The reason they become heroes is because they kill people or they fight people, Kylie? Got it. So it's like, okay, so put others before self. Good, I like that. Yeah,
It's also like not just putting people before yourself, but like also putting their life ahead of yours.
So not just others, but put others' lives before your own life. Okay, good. Haley?
Basically what you said.
Same. Okay. Yeah.
Like stand up for ideals.
Okay, so it's like standing up for. All right, awesome. Do we have a pretty, does Superman fit under this? Let's think of all of our normal heroes. Does Wonder Woman fit under this? I feel like yes. I feel like we've got a good list going. Okay, so with this list now and with however else you can justify heroes, we're going to divide the class into 4 groups. And I'm going to assign you one character from the Iliad that you have to argue is the hero of the Iliad. So we're going to have Hector, Achilles, Patroclus, and, well, who was I going to do? I want to say I was going to do Agamemnon. Yeah, I want to do Agamemnon. Okay, so our 4 groups, you'll either be arguing that Hector's the hero, Achilles, Patroclus, or Agamemnon, right? And you can do that in 2 ways. You can argue it literarily, like you're like, this is obviously the protagonist of this book, and so this is the hero. Or you can do it based on ethics. This person behaves this way, so obviously they're the hero. Or you could do it based on sort of cultural understanding. We recognize these types of people as heroes, so obviously this guy is the hero. There's lots of different ways to do it. Before I put you into groups, I'm going to give you the forms you're going to use to, oh no, I have to do this in groups. Forms you're going to use to prep for this. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my gosh, is that perfect rows? Amazing. Okay, so these 2 rows, you guys are grouped together. Okay? These 2 rows right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 7, 8, 9 plus Maddie and Brayden, you guys are a group together. And then the rest of, wait, that's only 3 groups. No, I gotta have 4 groups. Sorry, I thought it was perfect. Let's just count off. We're gonna count off to 4, okay? Does that work for you guys? Okay, I'm always terrible at this. I don't know what my problem is. Okay, 1, say that loud.
2,
3, 4, 1,
2, 3, 4,
Oh, 1,
2, 3,
4, 4,
2, 3,
4,
1,
3.
4,
1.
2.
Okay, perfect. So let's have the 1s take all your stuff. 1s congregate over in this corner. 2s congregate over in this corner. Find a desk to sit at. 3s congregate kind of like, well, you'll fit, if you can find a place to fit, you can move desks if you want to. Kind of back here by my desk. And then 4s back here by the cupboards. But you will want a desk to sit in for this. Okay, everybody's got this. Okay, this is your debate team. I'm going to give each team 1 copy of the debate prep form here. All right, so the way that we're going to do it is you are going to have, let's do 3 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes for your opening arguments. You will stand up here, you will give your opening arguments, We'll flip a coin to see who goes first. One group will say, Patroclus is the hero for this reason. And the other group will get up here and say, no, Achilles is the hero for this reason. And you guys will kind of like just present an opening statement. You don't necessarily need to prep, or you don't need to build off what the other group has said. You just present your opening statement. So here on the front page, this is where you're preparing for your opening statement. You've got a place for 4 different arguments. And then where it says explain the impact, that's because this debate is all about like policy. We're going to change that a little bit. So where it says explain the impact, you're going to justify your answer with information from the Iliad. So you're going to pull textual examples. You can quote if you want to, maybe a few little quotes could be effective, or you can just explain what happens. But this is going to be the way that you're justifying your argument in your opening statements. Okay, not if that part makes sense so far. Okay, cool. Then you open this up. You also are going to have a chance to give a closing statement. So we'll do a couple little rebuttals in the middle, and then I'll say, okay, it's time for closing statements. Closing statements will only be 3 minutes, so they're a little shorter. And in the closing statement prep, you're trying to think what your opponent, and I'll tell you who your opponent is going to say. So you're trying to anticipate. Let's say you're Hector and you're fighting against Patroclus. You're going to try to anticipate what, so it says things I would like to say to support our team. You're trying to anticipate the arguments they're going to make and how you're going to refute those in the closing argument. Okay, and then the last page is where you're preparing for what happens in the middle. So there's an opening statement, both sides give a 5-minute little speech. In the middle, you go back and forth. I'll give you 1 minute per team, and we'll go back and forth, let's say twice. And you'll be able to rebut what they have to say. So like if someone says, well, Patroclus is the hero, obviously because he puts the needs of the Greek ahead of anybody of his own life. And he knows like if he goes into battle, there's a good chance he'll die, right? Well, then you need to anticipate, okay, but then why do I need to prove then that Achilles is actually the hero against that argument? So this is where you kind of plan ahead what people are going to say. It says things our opponent might say to us, things we could say back. Make sense? All right, there's a column here on the second page where it says things I would like to say against the other team. You do not need to fill out that column because it says you can add this during the debate. That's when we will add it. You'll be like kind of taking notes together to try and decide what you can say to rebut. So the rest of it though, you're gonna fill out ahead of the debate so that you come into it feeling very prepared. I also, while you do the debate, I have a little thing that you're going to take notes on, so we'll see how that goes. And then we're all going to be the judges of this debate. It's not just going to be me, it's going to be everybody. And so everybody will be filling out scorecards to find out who won the debate. If the group that wins the overall debate, like we'll have 2, because we'll have these 2 and then these 2 and then the winners. It'll be like that. The group that wins will get 5 extra credit points. So there's a monetary value on the line. You know, you could pass the class based on this. So there's a reason to do your very best work. Yeah. So let me see how we're gonna set it up before I assign the groups. All right, cool. So the first debate is gonna be between Achilles and Agamemnon. You guys get Achilles. You guys back here, you're fighting for Agamemnon being the hero. You got it. That's probably the toughest one that you can do it. You guys back there, you're fighting for Patroclus. Patroclus is our hero. You guys out here, you're fighting for Patroclus. So the 2 battles are going to the 2 debates are going to go. Patroclus and Hector are going to fight it out. And Achilles and Agamemnon are going to fight it out. And then whoever wins from these, they're going to debate. All right, so I'm going to check in about 20 minutes. I'm going to give you all this time to start filling out that form, start planning your arguments, and then I'll see where we are in 20 minutes, okay? You don't have to finish in 20 minutes, though. Just do your very best thinking here. Okay, go ahead.